Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous, and here is her story. Hi, Ollie. I just wanted to say thank you again for the video you made for me last spring. There are no words to describe how grateful I am for your humor and feedback. You say all the things we wish we could have said. Your channel has been very helpful to me and others suffering from years of narcissistic abuse. I regularly refer to your videos as a source of comfort and coping when I'm having a hard time. The holidays are always a rough time of year. You always hear how it's better to give than receive. However, when you grow up with narcissistic parents, that's definitely not the case. I thought I would send you a collection of my memories about everything that happened around Christmas and New Year's holidays. Christmas decorating. Every year my parents would decorate the house for Christmas. It was over the top and quite gaudy. I mean, every room in the house looked like Christmas exploded and Santa threw up in that room. It was like growing up in my house. Every room had its own tree. The yard was full of decorations, including a Santa in a sleigh and all his reindeer on the roof of the house. When I think of all the money they spent on this crap, well, it was ridiculous. I mean, they even paid for dedicated storage units for all of this Christmas. For all of this Christmas, it was hoarding. They would always have a holiday party to invite people over to see the whole house decorated for Christmas. Finally, one year, they set up the party and nobody showed up. I guess people realized how truly obnoxious they were by then. I called it Santa's House of Horrors. They would actually send a video recording of the Christmas decorations. I tell you, I would rather have a root canal at the dentist than to suffer through 2 hours of watching their Christmas decorations video. Because no one came to that party, they stopped decorating for Christmas. Well, there was their narcissistic injury right there. If people weren't going to ooh and ah over it, there was no point in decorating anymore. My mother blamed people for not showing up and said, "How sad this has been, so upsetting to your dad. The narcissist will never see they are the problem, not other people." Christmas presents. First off, what's better than a Christmas gift, right? First off, what's better than a Christmas gift, right? With my parents, I quickly learned that buying and giving gifts becomes an agonizing experience, which seems to get worse and worse over time. The memories. I recall giving my mother a beautiful plant one Christmas. She shouted, "Why are you giving me a plant? I hate plants." You can't win. Like, there's no winning. We purchased a nice fruit basket, and I remember thinking they will love this gift. Instead, I was told, "Why are you giving me fruit? We don't eat fruit." Yeah, the narcissist will never love your gift. Will never love your gift. We don't eat fruit. I remember one Christmas my mother asking for a coffee carafe. I bought the one she asked for. After the holiday, she made a big deal of taking it back to the store and returned it. She also complained about how cheap I had been in choosing that gift. I learned very early on as a child you must never say the words, "Is there anything you need?" to my parents. If you do, they'll give you a long list of all the stuff they want. Stuff, by the way, they will later badmouth, complain about, return to the store, and won't bother to take time to say thank you. That was Virginia. My grandmother's trick was returning everybody's gifts for cash. Always. Some of the best Christmas fights were over the receipts. When I was a small child, my parents would give me and my golden child sister many toys. Most of them we did not care about, so they could take pictures and tell everyone they were good parents. One Christmas around age 8, my parents put coal in my stocking because they didn't like me questioning about why I had to do all my house cleaning chores twice. How dare I argue about having to do everything twice? Another Christmas, my mother's true self was revealed. She manipulated my aunt to prevent her from giving me a set of soup bowls. My aunt thought it was odd for my mom to get involved. Now she realizes it was just another thing my mother did to try to hurt me. Soup bowls? Like when you're getting involved in soup bowls, man. My mother acted like she didn't know what was going on. When I found out my mother intentionally tried to hurt me, it made me wonder how many other times she was doing the same thing over the years. One year I sent an elegant holiday dinner package featuring a full-course meal with a turkey, ham, and all the fixings. Not going to be good enough. My mother said, "Why did you send me a turkey? It isn't that I don't like turkey. I hate turkey." They will never like your gift. The narcissist will never like your gift. She continued, "Your husband should have remembered that since he used to clean my plate during the holidays." Both my husband and I thought, what is she talking about? Every year for 30 years, she served turkey dinner at her house and never said a word about her hatred of roast turkey. Over the years, we would give my parents money and gifts for Christmas, but it didn't matter how much or how little the amount, it was never good enough. It was what I call the thank you buts. Thank you, but it's not enough to pay my rent. Thank you, but it's not enough to pay for my prescriptions. Every thanks included a but, which disqualified the gift. Then eventually they stopped thanking me completely. But she just stopped giving them gifts. After my father died, my mother and golden child sister sent me an email of what they wanted for Christmas. I sent them some gifts, but I didn't bother to mention the shipment had arrived. I keep losing my place. When I called them to wish them a Merry Christmas, I said, "Did you get my package?" They said yes, but still neglected to say a simple thank you. You're never going to get a thank you. Never. This must be their way of saying your gifts were not adequate. I poop on you. In later years, they never gave us gifts anyway. They would make sure to tell you that they wanted stuff, but they couldn't be bothered to even send a Christmas card in the end. Renewal of faith. Christmas is a meaningful time to renew your faith, correct? Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way in my family. My parents went to church religiously, pun intended. When we were kids, we attended every Sunday and Holy Day. My parents believed they could go to church and be forgiven all their horrible behaviors. I swear religion is viewed as a get-out-of-jail-free card to the narcs. Yup. They think they can do whatever horrible thing they want because, after all, the priest will forgive them. I remember when I was a little girl, my mom made my sister and I matching winter coats to wear to church. When we got inside, I was really overheating in the coat. I wanted to take the coat off. My mother said, "No, you can't take the coat off. I didn't put a lining in the coat yet. I don't want people to see there's no lining." Why she was more worried about what people thought of the coat instead of her daughter's comfort. By the way, this was the only time I remember her making clothes for us. Why? You want to know why she didn't want you to take the coat off? Because it wasn't an adequate coat without a lining for winter, and she didn't want to see that it was just polish. That's it. That coat was just polish. Inadequate to keep you warm outside, but enough to overheat you inside. After church, my parents would come out saying negative things about other parishioners. They would talk about how this or that person shouldn't be getting communion because of some gossip stories they heard about people's behaviors. Going to church on Christmas Eve was a big thing when I was a kid. Then after church, it was a chance for them to cut other cars off in the parking lot as they squealed their tires to get out of there first. Boy, my parents liked to create chaos and noise, didn't they? Can't figure out why anybody didn't want to go to their Christmas party, huh? Spending time with loved ones. Come to think of it, any time I went out with them, my parents would always get into conflict and arguments with people in parking lots, checkout lanes, etc. It seemed obvious they got their enjoyment of these out of these conflicts, arguments, and shouting matches with other people. Boy, do I know what that's like. No wonder nobody showed up to your parents' Christmas party. Another thing that always bothered me, my parents always telling me, you need to smile more. Oh, go fuck yourself with that. You don't smile. You always say, yeah, because of you, bitch. Leave me alone. Just walk around like a smiling idiot. Oh, God. Fuck off. I smile when I have something to fucking smile about. You need to smile more, they would say. Dealing with these people literally sucked all the life force and happiness out of me. But you know how it works. They want to appear as though their family is happy, loving, and normal in front of others. Never mind what is going on behind the curtain of abuse, verbal assaults, getting slapped, escalating right on up to physical and sexual abuse, literally beating the crap out of me for only minor offenses. Out on the town. To casual observers, my parents probably appeared to be normal, very outgoing people who seemed very sociable. They used any interactions with others, like the supermarket checkout stand or being served by a waitress, to share the smallest details about their lives. Then they would be sure to tell everyone and anyone who would listen what great people they are. They loved to brag about themselves, their home, their family, and most importantly, how much they are admired by everyone they meet. Sounds like going out with my parents. Sound familiar, meat? Sound familiar? I know it does. My mother had a lot of surgeries when I was a kid. There was always something wrong with her. After a while, you learn not to be so concerned when she said she was sick. She had over 35 surgeries. She got a lot of attention from being in the hospital all the time. She would love to tell total strangers about her surgeries. I would tell her it's not appropriate to tell strangers about your surgeries. They love having everyone serve them. My father would say things like, somebody could sure use a fork, or somebody could sure use a drink, when he wanted something but was too lazy to get it himself. He would never ask for them directly. My parents thought all family members were there to be their servants. They even treated my grandma and aunt like servants. Everybody except my golden child sister, of course. She was immune to the endless list of chores. One Christmas, my grandmother was sick, so she could not travel to celebrate Christmas with our family. She let us know that even though she was sick, she was happy she didn't have to come to my parents' house because of all the laundry, ironing, cooking, and housework they expected her to do. My parents got so bad that one year, my grandma made a sign that said on strike, and she refused to be their personal slave during Christmas that year. They went to restaurants often because it made them feel important to be waited on. In fact, they hated drive-through restaurants because they didn't get to be served. Eating out also gave them the opportunity to brag about themselves in public. Well, they can't get anybody to come to their house anymore to do it, right? As I said, my mother shared the gruesome details of her surgeries and also embarrassed me by talking about the details of my medical history. My parents have no glimmer of understanding that these were inappropriate topics to discuss with people you don't know. They didn't realize that workers in the restaurants act friendly so they will get tips. I remember one Christmas, they invited a waitress to their house to show off their Christmas decorations. Well, guess what? She didn't show up as promised. They became very irate that she did not show up at their house. They didn't realize how creepy it must have been for the waitress to be invited to a customer's house. I don't blame the waitress for not coming, but they held an awful grudge and maintained a hatred toward her for years. So much for those good tips. Even after I had children, my parents would buy them fancy clothes and insist on parading them around all over town. They treated my kids like Paris Hilton does her doggy in a purse just for show. They said they wanted to play games with their grandchildren, but never bothered to actually spend time playing any games or even taking time to talk with them. There used to be television commercials that said, "Come to Olive Garden, we treat you like family." Ugh, yeah, they got to because the food is so bad. I always thought, no thanks, not interested, not the way my family treats me. I have been treated better by strangers than my family. All of these family commercials showing loving parents are not real life. Well, not for us. Not for us. For other people, believe it or not, it is. Other people actually like their families and have reason to like their families. We don't. Friends and family. One Christmas, she told me that when I was a baby, she threw me into a swimming pool by myself as she stood on the side of the pool. She said she saw this on television. I said, "What?" I could have been drowned. Her answer was, "It was fine. You bobbed up and started swimming." I can't believe she did that and thought it was okay to talk about. She believed it was acceptable to throw your baby in a swimming pool. I'm lucky to have survived her upbringing. You know what the weird thing is, though? It was a stupid thing for her to do. Believe it or not, there are babies that can just swim on their own. Erin was one of them. It was crazy. Erin was one of them. Like, I had her in the pool. I was just playing with her. We were like going around, and all of a sudden she just starts swimming across the pool. Like, this is before she was a year old. Just starts swimming across the pool, swimming back, swimming. I'm like, what is going? Just why? Like, and gone, swimming across the pool. It was the craziest thing. Like, that kid always could swim. Both my parents never developed the ability to make adult friends. Often they would call people friends who were really just passing acquaintances. They have always believed their wait staff are their best friends. This may be caused by the fact that they don't have any real friends due to their awful behaviors, and they have to live in their world of delusion and grandeur. Okay, that's what they do. They create a world of delusion and grandeur, and none of it is real. God, I'm sorry. To say they didn't have a realistic perspective on relationship with others is an understatement. Over the years, my parents went through a long list of so-called friends. I know what that's like. This was more evident at Christmas when there were no friends to be found. In reality, friends were just people my parents used until they could no longer be taken advantage of. Once people saw my parents' mask slip and recognized what my parents really were, they would move on. When my parents could no longer get meals or money from them, they would talk ill about these ex-friends, or in many cases, they just vanished and were never brought up again. At Christmas and New Year's, my family would demand we drop everything for them when they called. I remember one time my mother had the phone company operator break in the line during my husband's phone call by claiming it was a life safety emergency. Guess what? It wasn't an emergency. All this drama about a phone call. These people know no boundaries. On the other hand, my parents would get upset if you didn't call. But when you did call, everything else was more important than you. They couldn't talk to you because they were watching television reruns. We noticed a pattern of their behavior as they grew older. They became more obnoxious and much ruder. Their phone messages changed to, "If we're not home, we are napping." Or, "You called during our favorite soap opera. Don't call us before 1 p.m. It really makes you feel warm and welcome, doesn't it? When my parents figured out how to email me, they expected a response right away. In a few minutes, I would get another email that said, "Where are you?" in all caps. Right now, Christmas travel. When our family moved away, my parents didn't see didn't see us that much at Christmas time. When our family moved away, my parents didn't see us much at Christmas time. In fact, a few years would go by sometimes before we would visit them. So you would think when we visited my parents, they would be happy to see us. But no, they would continue watching TV or complaining about the neighbors or talk about the latest crime reports. It was never how was your flight or what have you been up to. When you took them out to eat, they would order a huge amount of expensive food. Then after the waitress walked away, they would say, "You're paying, right?" Then they would look over our heads to see who else was in the room. They weren't interested in us at all. No wonder we had very low contact with these dreadful people. I remember when my beloved grandma was dying with stage 4 cancer. I traveled to see my grandma at Christmas time. This would be my last Christmas with her. I went with my grandma and mother to see my grandma's oncologist. During this appointment, my mother kept trying to one-up my grandma with stories of her own illness. Yep, this is what my father did when my brother was being wheeled into surgery. He was trying to talk about his own shit. This is what they do. I finally said to my mother, "Grandma is dying. Let her have this one." As usual, everything has to be centered around my mother. Shortly into the new year, I flew to my grandmother's funeral. My grandma was quite religious, so I ordered a medallion to be placed with her in the coffin. When my mother saw it on top of my grandmother's coffin, she threw a hissy fit and insisted on keeping the medallion instead. My parents made sure to collect up everything I bought for my grandma prior to her death. And you let them get away with that? What awful people. Christmas charity. Have you ever noticed that these narcs will do horrible things to people, then take glee in telling you and others what they did? That's what my parents took great delight in doing and then bragging about it, not even realizing they were loathsome and inappropriate. One time my mother was going into a store to return an item. She saw a red kettlebell ringer in front of the store. She cried and told the ringer man a long sob story about how she normally donates during the holidays. She did her signature fake crying on demand in front of the kettlebell ringer. Well, she ended up getting $5 from the kettle ringer that he took from his own pocket. She then went around telling everyone how she received money from the bell ringer. It was like a badge of honor she was proud of. Both my parents are major scammers and users. They took advantage of everyone they met. This pattern always seems to reach a peak around Christmas each year, probably because they needed more money around that time of year. My parents believe everyone owes them a living. This includes relatives, people they meet, and anyone they come in contact with. When I was a teenager, my parents told me that one of our cars was vandalized. I became very upset at this news. My parents then insisted I be there when they met with the insurance adjuster. Later, I found out they arranged to trash the car and intentionally manipulated my emotions as part of their insurance scam. I was horrified when I discovered the truth. My mother was always falling and injuring herself too. Or she even sued her own grandpa when she fell down the stairs. Another time she sued a church when she fell down the stairs. During my childhood, she was always slipping and falling. Then she would get medical help. She would love all the attention she got while being treated. I remember my mother falling at an amusement park, a mall parking lot, a fancy hotel, a restaurant, a grocery store. Really, this list goes on and on and on over the years. The grocery store gave my parents free groceries when she fell in the grocery aisle. On top of that, my parents got a free food buffet from that grocery store once a month. Now you see why I keep my distance from these people. For many years, we went on very low contact with them. The last time my mother was in the hospital, I sent some small items to my mother's room to cheer her up. Not good enough. All she did was complain how the car didn't say love on it even though I didn't fill out the card myself. my mother my mother called my aunt, so my aunt would call me and say, your mom's card didn't say love on it. Yes, Ollie, as you know, the narc uses other people to relay their messages. This is what happens when I send my mother a gift. So don't. Christmas cards. As a small child, age 3 or 4, I remember standing in line with my mother. I was crying because every time I stood in line, it was to get a shot. This time we were waiting to get a picture taken. My mother did not explain what was happening, so I continued crying. Although the photographer tried to calm me down and get me to stop crying, my mother insisted he take the picture anyway. She said she wanted everyone to see me being naughty and that I was a troublemaker. My mother put that picture in with the family's Christmas cards that year. I still have the picture of me crying. When I look at it, I think, who would buy a portrait of their child crying, display it in their home, and send it out for Christmas? Someone who hates you. It's obvious my mother enjoyed hurting me. A year or two later at Christmas, she had my long curly hair cut off into a pixie haircut like Mia Farrow's super short 1960s look. Mother made me look like a boy, which actually caused my father to get very upset with her. Because of his strong negative reaction, she never did that to me again. Of course, she had professional photos taken of me with this hairstyle. This time it was part of our family photo. Guess what she did with that photo? Of course, it was sent with our Christmas cards. When my hair grew back out, she loved to brush my hair real hard. She would always use a comb to get out the snarls, except she would pull so hard that I would scream and cry. You could actually see my scalp was all red. The more you cry, the more she would pull your hair or hit you with the brush. Then you would get the angry response, I'll give you something to cry about. I'm still working through these lingering memories of Christmas and many more. Some days are better than others. I am grateful I have a supportive husband and children. Going no contact is the best decision I ever made. I only wish I went no contact much earlier. When you go no contact, it's like peeling off layers of an onion. It takes a long time to uncover many layers of memories resulting from years of abuse and crappy treatment. Thank you, Ollie, for all you do. I recognize the only way to take the power back from abusers is to gain a new perspective on their motivations. Somehow you are able to make this transformation happen. May you and Charlene have a happy, narcissist-free holiday and a new year in 2020. Sincerely, Anonymous. You know what you should do, Anonymous? If you have those pictures of you crying, you should have them duplicated and sent back to all your family. This is why I don't talk to her. This is why I'll have nothing to do with her. And I wish you would have learned a lot earlier. The narcissist will never like or appreciate any gift you give them ever. They'll just use it against you. And especially when you got some spoiled, entitled narcs like this. So, I hope that helps. Thank you so much for your contribution. It was awesome and story. I really appreciate it. Thank you. I hope this video helped. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to have a private video made, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been The Narcissistic Resistance. Take care.